It's the Scotty Myers Show.
Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of the show. I'm your host, Scotty Myers. Hope you're having a fantastic week so far. As I mentioned last week, I've started my training for a 10K race that's coming up here, the Blue Nose 10K. But I've decided to take my training a little bit further. I've always had this kind of idea in the back of my head that I wanted to run a half marathon. And it sounds like a lot. It is a lot. I'm not looking forward to it, but I am going to run one. I'm not going to do one here. I'm going to wait. I figured if I'm going to run a half marathon and be miserable, I may as well do it in the happiest place on earth, right? So I'm going to give myself until January. It's actually going to happen just before my birthday. I'll be running the half marathon at Walt Disney World. Really looking forward to it, I guess, as much as I can be. I think I'm more just looking forward to going back to Disney. But half marathon is in my future, so wish me well. I'll give you little snippets of my training as we go, whether it's going to be here on the podcast or on the YouTube channel as well. So if you haven't subscribed to us over on the YouTube channel, I'd recommend you do that as well. Could see some shots of me gasping for breath as I train to run a half marathon. There we go. So that was a big development for me. Speaking of training, I had an odd moment at the gym this week. It was just uncomfortable. You know, I get done my workout, have my shower, and then I always hop in the sauna for just a couple of minutes. You know, I'm not in there very long, but I like to go in. It dries me off a little quicker, relaxes my muscles, but I don't sit in there for, hours on end like some people do. I would get bored. Plus, it's super hot, and it's, not hard to breathe, but it's not comfortable in there. It's too hot. Too hot. So I hop in the sauna, and there's this older gentleman there. Now, when I first walked in the door, he was sitting facing the door, legs straight. And then I sat in the opposite corner of the sauna. He kind of turned towards me and kind of cornered himself a little bit. Spread eagle a little bit more as well, which was, not the most pleasant view in the world, but whatever. Hey, maybe he needed to move. Maybe he just worked out and was sore. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm in there a brief period of time. He asked me how I'm doing. I said, I'm doing all right. It's another day. And then I get up to leave because, as I said, I don't stay very long in the sauna. And he says to me a phrase that I don't think you should say in a sauna because it just comes across creepy, especially when you're sitting legs akimbo with your nether regions on display like they're a sale product that you're trying to get somebody to buy. So this guy's sitting in the corner like that, and he looks at me as I'm getting up and he goes, too hot in here for you? No, it wasn't. Was not too hot in there for me. I was like, no, gotta go to work. Running a little late. It wasn't too hot in there for me. It suddenly got too creepy in there for me. That's not something that I want Kate Beckinsale to say to me in a sauna, because that would just be weird. But not something you want an older gentleman who's got his little fella on full display for you to ask. I didn't realize I was sharing the sauna with Harvey Weinstein. Anyway, speaking of things that might make you uncomfortable, sexting is not an easy thing to do because you never know when you're going to cross the line, maybe go too far, creep the other person on the other end out like the old man did in the sauna with me. So it's something that I think if you wanted to get into sexting, you should probably practice, but who can you practice with? It's not something that you can do with a family member or even a good friend because, again, you may cross some sort of line and then suddenly you're going to be looked at in a very odd light. Well, thankfully, technology has come to your rescue. If you need to practice some sexting, there is now a service called Slutbot. I wish I was making that name up, but I'm not. It lets you practice sexting by doing it with a robot. And you can do a couple of different settings They're slow and gentle or hot and sexy. The people who created Slutbot say that most people are opting for the hot and sexy over slow and gentle. But apparently both of them get very dirty very fast. Even slow and gentle gets R-rated pretty quickly. Now, if you do want to try Slutbot, you can do so for free. All you got to do is text the word Slutbot to 415-650-0395. And then, you're off and running and sexting with a robot. And there is a safe word. Apparently, if Slutbot goes too far and you are suddenly massively uncomfortable, then all you have to do is reply pineapple and you're in the clear. It's funny, pineapple, not too far off my actual safe word, blueberry pancakes. But I was amazed they went with a food-based one. But this all sounds fine and dandy, and maybe you're doing this for your relationship, because you want to spice things up with your significant other. Let's just say your significant other catches your phone full of sex back and forth. It's not like it says this is a robot sexting you. It just looks like you're having an actual sexting conversation. So your significant other sees this and flips the fuck out because they think that you're at least sexting cheating on them, which is somewhat cheating. And then what do? What's your defense? No, honey, honestly, I am not sexting with another person. That's a robot on the other end. I'm having sex with a robot. That doesn't sound very good either. I think either way, you're putting your relationship at risk here. Just be totally awkward in your sexting. It's part of the charm of sexting. But just to let you know, I'm like out here for you. I tried Slutbot to see how it went. And like pretty much every other woman in my life, it was like, this is doing nothing for me. You know what? Call back in a couple of days and give it another go, Tiger. So we'll see what I can do in a couple of days. Wanted to talk about the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. If you saw this online, it became a big story. During the Hall of Fame inductions this year, they were inducting the Hart Foundation, the tag team of Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Undeniably, the Hart Foundation was a dominant force in the tag team division, so they deserve their spot in the Hall of Fame. And Bret Hart, if you know his story, it's a bit of a sad one, where Bret, one of the greatest in-ring performers ever, but suffered a severe concussion, which ended his career earlier than it should have ended. Then he had a stroke. He's fought his way back. So he's there giving the induction speech, receiving the honor of going into the Hall of Fame. And some jackass fan decides that this is the time that he's going to run into the ring, which it was odd this year that they did it in a ring, and tackle Bret Hart, an old man at this point who is not, the performer or man in the same shape that he was when he was back in the tag team or a solo wrestler. So, now this is the thing. Whenever a guy rushes the ring in wrestling, the kind of unwritten rule is when you cross that barricade, the wrestlers have free reign to put a licking on you. And trust me, they will put a licking on you. They if they want to. And this guy, he took some stiff shots, deservedly so. And when they asked him later why he did it, he was like, I just thought it was a good idea. Thought it was a perfect opportunity to do it. The perfect opportunity to attack an older gentleman while he's being honored for, I'm presuming, something you like. I mean, I don't know many people that pay the money to go to a Hall of Fame ceremony where you're not seeing matches or anything like that. You're literally listening to wrestlers talk and tell stories. You attack the guy then because you think it's the perfect opportunity. Obviously, the guy that attacked Bret Hart, not all his, screws were tightened properly, but it just sat. And I was sitting there thinking, like, how does this happen? Like, how are we still in a day and age where we don't have enough security at these events to protect performers. You know, we look at the number of times that people have gotten on stages at concerts and hurt, sometimes even killed musicians on stage, ran onto a tennis court, stabbed tennis players. You know, this has been happening for years. And I'm not saying you have to build a wall around these people, but it's shocking to me that we still, in this age of heightened security, can't prevent somebody from getting at a performer. Really need to look at this and figure out ways to make these people safer, because they're there to entertain us. And, you know, if they can't do that, or if they're doing that constantly looking over their shoulder, it's not going to be the form of entertainment that we want to see. So glad that everybody was okay, that nothing bad happened, and that Bret Hart is fine. But it was very eye-opening to me, because of all the places, the WWE, all those wrestlers, and like I say, they'll get the shots in when somebody crosses that barricade. That at that event, a guy got through was shocking and kind of sad, in all honesty. On to the geek news of the week. We've got a few stories, some very, very interesting. Now, we'll start with The Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad movie that's being done by James Gunn, who we all know from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. There was talk that it was going to be a sequel. Now there's talk that it's not a sequel, but they're also not calling it a full-on reboot because they can't, because a lot of the cast is coming back. Harley Quinn will be played by Margot Robbie again. Joel Kinnaman is coming back to be Rick Flag. Amanda Waller will be played by Viola Davis again. So there's a lot of returning people from the first Suicide Squad movie. One that wasn't coming back was Will Smith. He played Floyd Lawton, better known as Deadshot. And the internet got very, very happy when they found out that Idris Elba was going to be stepping in and playing Deadshot in the Suicide Squad. It now turns out that's not the case. Idris Elba is still part of the movie, but he won't be playing Deadshot. Now, everything I've read, nobody has said whether or not Will Smith will be back at some point to play Floyd Lawton. There was talk of doing a whole Deadshot spin-off film. Maybe that's still in the works. Maybe Will Smith called them and said, hey, I really still want to be part of this. So they figured out a way. Idris Elba will still be in the Suicide Squad. He will not play Deadshot. They've rewritten the character, so he will play somebody else. Who that somebody else is yet, we don't know. A lot of people are speculating that it will be Bronze Tiger, who would make sense, kind of an original member of the squad, but he would make, to me, the most sense. But there's lots of other characters that have been in Suicide Squad over the years that he could play. He could be Bane. Idris Elba's a big dude. Bane was in the Suicide Squad for a while. Maybe that's the character that we see him take on. Maybe he does Nemesis, kind of a bit of a master of disguise. That would be an interesting role for him to take on. There's many characters that Idris Elba could play. Love to know who you think he should play in the upcoming flick. You can let me know. The Scotty Mars Show on Facebook, Instagram, and at Scotty Mars on Twitter. I think it'll end up being Bronze Tiger, but I wouldn't be amazed if it was somebody else. My money is on Bronze Tiger. Speaking of Warner Brothers, they just had a clash with the President of the United States. Apparently, Trump released a video online that was using music from The Dark Knight Rises, and Warner Brothers instantly filed a copyright claim saying, hey, he has no rights to use that music. And very, very quickly, normally these things take a while to see any type of outcome on a copyright claim like this. But the video that Trump had put up with the Dark Knight Rises score, already taken down. So for all those wondering who can stop Donald Trump, the answer has been and always will be Batman. There's nobody he can't stop. Switching gears to some Star Wars news. We're going to have a ton of that next week with Star Wars Celebration happening this week. But everybody was happy when we found out that J.J. Abrams was returning for Star Wars Episode 9. and hopefully kind of fixing a few things that went wrong with The Last Jedi. And interestingly, though, he almost passed on it. He said, I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't the guy. When they called and said, would you like to come back? He said initially, no. I'm not going to do this. It's a lot of pressure, and he loves Star Wars so much. He felt like he did it once, did a good job, and was almost like, you know what? I'm playing with fire if I go back to do Star Wars again. But then the more he thought about it, and I guess talked to a few people close to him, they really encouraged him to be like, no, you should do this. And thankfully, he did. He jumped back in the director's chair. So we will see Star Wars Episode 9 on December 20th. But again, with Star Wars Celebration happening this weekend, I would not doubt that we get our first peek at Episode 9 over the weekend. And speaking of Disney and Star Wars, of course, you know, Disney is launching their own streaming service that's going to feature some Star Wars themed programming as well as some programming. They've already announced that Scarlet Witch and Loki are getting their own shows on the Disney Plus streaming service, and they're not the only ones. Reports came out that Hawkeye is getting his own series on Disney Plus, and Jeremy Renner will play Hawkeye on the TV show, but he will not be alone. Hawkeye is going to be joined by Kate Bishop, and Kate Bishop takes up the mantle of Hawkeye when Clint Barton passes it on to her. So this is going to be a very, very cool show, and that's going to be the basis of the show, is Clint passing the mantle on to Kate. So this is just another reason that everybody's going to want to have the Disney Plus streaming service, and rumor has it that that streaming service will be debuting in November. So we actually don't have that much longer to wait to get our hands on some of this Disney entertainment. No word yet on when Hawkeye will launch. I doubt it'll be ready for November, as you know, Renner was pretty busy filming a tiny little film called Avengers Endgame. And we are only a couple of weeks away from getting to see that, but the pre-sale tickets selling 5 times faster than Infinity War, and stories keep popping up about people trying to sell their tickets to Endgame. I talked about this a little bit last week. The total keeps getting higher. Last week it was $10,000. This week apparently there's a guy in Nevada trying to sell a pair of tickets to the opening night of Avengers Endgame for $15,000. Again, I would get it if it was a one-night only affair and this was your only chance ever to see Avengers Endgame. I still probably wouldn't pay $15,000, but at least I'd understand it. But for $15,000, if I bought those tickets to Avengers Endgame, Robert Downey Jr. better be sitting next to me, tickling my taint while I watch the movie, and like Scarlett Johansson better be running back and forth to the concession stand for me in a skimpy little outfit. $15,000. I need some special treatment to see the movie. That's all I'm saying. Thanks for checking out the show this week. We'll be back again next week. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. That's the Scotty Mars Show on Facebook, Instagram, at Scotty Mars on Twitter. If you're downloading the podcast on iTunes, give us a rating, a review. Definitely helps spread the word of the show. And if you have any comments or questions, reach out on one of those social media forums. Hit me up. I will gladly get back to you. Until we talk again, have a great week.